Hello, this is Niles from Danger U, and I'm going to be showing you guys how to deobfuscate this line in the OOF source code. Looks pretty scary, but we'll find out that there's really nothing going on here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paste it into an online JavaScript beautifier, and that's just so that it's not all on one line, and I can actually tell what's going on. Now we can put it in the buffer, set file type equals JavaScript, and get some syntax highlighting. So the first thing to recognize here is A to B, and this is just base 64 decode. So if we open a terminal and just base 64 decode this, if I had copied it to my clipboard, here we go. We can see this is decode URI. So window decode URI is the same as window dot decode URI. And so this is just decode URI, and I can just find it and replace this everywhere I see it. Similarly, now that we know that this is decode URI, we can start actually decoding it. And so we can go to node URI and then just paste it in there and see that this is A to B, which is again the same as .A to B, and so we can find it and replace here as well. And now it's just a matter of getting these really unfortunate strings into a human readable format. So again, decode URI on this bad boy, and we can see that we get some base 64 text, and we can see that this whole thing is get element by ID. And so we're calling get element by ID with, again, something that looks totally ugly, but we'll see it's not that bad. Oops, my bad. Alright, so this is submit. So I'm just going to call this submit. Alright, and we're already like 4 lines in, and we can see that the next 3 lines are almost the exact same process. So let's just keep going here. Inner text, pretty easy. Alright, and disabled. So this is just an array. I'm just going to call this our array. How about that? Decode URI again. Random. Okay, so this is the same as just math.random. So this is saying if math.random is greater than a half. Oh, it's called P. Oh, I forgot to obfuscate that name. Oopsies. Alright, here we're just base 64 decoding it a couple times. And okay, this is also random. Alright, so now we have P and Q. This is pretty easy. Now, what is this big function? Well, we're passing in the first argument as being array, and so we may as well replace that. And we're passing in the second argument as some number that we increment. Okay, I'm going to call that count for now. OXC5 is 197. What is this? Oof. Oh, this takes count as an argument. This is a function. And it takes count. Interesting. I think I can just evaluate this. Because all we're doing is pushing things onto the array and shifting things off the beginning of the array. So let's just try this. You know what I mean? And then we run this, and then we get array, and it's just, yeah, all we did is, since we did it 197 times, and I think 196 is a multiple of 3, all it did was move disabled from the end of the array to the beginning. Alright. So that's all that did. Not hard at all. And now we've removed half of our code here. Alright, so what's going on here? This is some function. I'm just going to call it f for now. I'm not sure what it does. It takes 2 arguments. Does it really? Because here, down at the bottom when we call it, we only give it 1 argument. And this argument is never used. So that's not doing anything. So I'm going to call this arg until I know what it's doing. This is converting it to an integer. If you take a string and subtract 0, and we are passing it a string, we're passing it 0, 1, and 2. Alright, so I'm just going to remove the quotes since I know these are numbers, and then we don't need to convert it to an integer. This is the same as just return that. Return array of arguments, so we'll call this I guess. And array, again, here is disabled inner text and sending. So f of 0 is disabled, f of 1 is inner text, and f of 2 is sending. Alright, so we don't even need the array, we don't need function anymore. We're not using a to b, we're not using decode URI, and now we're just left with a couple lines. So this is pretty recognizable from your discrete math class. If we just replace exclamation point with not, come on, and ampersand, ampersand, can I do that? With and or with or. Alright, now we have an expression. P and Q, remember, were random up here. Totally random. So what do we have? P, okay, not P or P and Q, that's just P. So this whole thing is just P by absorption law. And similarly, I see the same exact pattern over here. Q and Q or P, this is just Q. Don't even need the parentheses here. Law, if I could spell law correctly. Alright. And then what do we have here? Take off parentheses. We have P and not P. That's just false. I don't even remember what identity that is. That's like conjunction or something. I don't remember. Alright. Q and not Q is also false. And so we have not false, which is true. True or false, that's just true. Alright, so that was pretty easy. So submit.disabled is true. It doesn't matter what P and Q were, they don't get used. And so we have our deobfuscated code is 3 lines now. We pull out submit, which is just the button that you click on to submit the form to send your reply. We disable it and we set its inner text to sending. And I think the reason we did this, well, I know one reason we did this was to prevent people from mashing on the button multiple times and accidentally sending multiple replies. Now, somehow that still happens. Not sure how. It can't happen anymore because the captcha will be wrong the second time around. But I think the real reason we put this here was to just have this big, massive JavaScript code that nobody could understand around the submit form, right? I mean, this is the function that you would have to look at. If you were a spammer, this is the function that you would have to look at to figure out where to point your spam bot, right? Submit form. And so we just figured that if we had all of this obfuscated JavaScript around it, people, by which I mean script kiddies, would assume that we had some sort of actual protection against it, when at the time, we totally didn't, right? This was before I was actually working for Danger U. It was just prefetcher and some PHP, and that was it. And so this was apparently, according to him, quite an effective way of keeping away the script kiddies. So that's the story behind that, and you see that deobfuscating this wasn't even that hard. How long are we into it? Oof, okay, 9 minutes. Never mind. That took longer than I thought it was going to. Well, bye.